Perfectionism is one of the most seductive forms of self-negotiation. It feels noble. It feels principled. It feels like high standards. But underneath the surface, perfectionism is something very different. It's a sophisticated attempt to negotiate with reality. And like all attempts to negotiate with reality, it fails. Today, in part 3 of 7, we're going to break this down. Hey there, it's me, Core, and you're listening to Exercising Self-Control from Fitness to Flourishing. Perfectionism often sounds like this when someone is speaking. I want to do this well. I want it to be high quality. I don't want to mess it up. That last one is starting to sound more like what's really motivating perfectionism. Externally, it sounds like having high standards, aspiring toward perfection. Internally, it's different. The real internal script is closer to, I want the outcome, without the discomfort of being imperfect on the way there. Does that sound familiar? Many of us fall into this trap. We have the belief that we can somehow bypass the awkward, unskilled phase and arrive fully formed. But here's the truth. That's not high standards. That's an attempt to escape causality. It's the belief that you should be able to skip the reality of skill building. You want to skip the learning curve, all those awkward first attempts. Essentially, you're trying to skip the phase where you're not good yet. Perfectionism is the mind saying, I want to be excellent without doing the things that would make me excellent. This is the reality alignment principle experienced as a life lesson, if we're open to learning it. The reality alignment principle teaches us that the world operates on laws of cause and effect. To achieve a desired outcome, the effect, you must actively engage in the necessary actions, the cause. Denying this fundamental principle leads to the frustration and paralysis characteristic of perfectionism. Perfectionism, I should leave that in. Perfectionism is a form of reality misalignment. It's the refusal to accept that excellence is the effect and that deliberate, intentional practice is the cause. It's the attempt to get the effect without the cause. And, to hammer the point again, reality does not negotiate. This is why perfectionism leads to paralysis, to avoidance, and to identity erosion. Because every time you avoid taking unskilled action, you reinforce the belief that you cannot act unless conditions are ideal. You teach yourself that your own word is conditional. You weaken the identity you're trying to build. This is the steep psychological cost of trying to deny reality. The fear driving perfectionism is understandable. Nobody wants to look foolish, to fail publicly, to confirm their worst fears about themselves. But that fear, when indulged, becomes a prison. The attempt to protect yourself from discomfort becomes the very thing that keeps you stuck. I experienced this firsthand when I committed to publishing this podcast daily for 1,000 days in a row. There have been days when the episode didn't feel ready. Days when the ideas felt half-formed. Days when I didn't think the quality was there. I hit publish anyway, because that's my commitment. And here's what I discovered. The episodes I thought were, in quotes, bad or unready were often completely fine. Sometimes they were better than the ones I thought just came easy. I was learning that my idea of perfect was one of the biggest hurdles I had to overcome. Because the quality of the episode wasn't the point. The point was reality alignment. The point was honoring the causal chain. If I want to be someone who publishes a podcast episode daily, I must publish a podcast episode daily. Not perfectly. Daily. And I've been getting it done. As a result of this effort, I've learned to allow for less than perfect episodes to go live and gotten much better at creating episodes. The planning, the research, the writing, editing, recording, all of it has gotten much more streamlined. And, I like to believe, the quality has also improved. I'm getting better. Not excellent yet, but I'm proud of the body of work I've produced so far. None of this would have happened had I stuck with my perfectionist tendencies. It's been a very worthwhile project holding myself to this daily effort. If you have a similar goal in mind, I highly recommend striving for quantity over quality. In fact, episode 11, Improve as You Move, Get Your Reps In, covers this idea fully. Now, understanding why perfectionism fails is only half the battle. The crucial next step is to embrace a mindset and methodology that aligns with reality. This is where the practice of Stoic strength training becomes essential. The practice doesn't require perfect outcomes. It requires you to execute the next task. It removes the perfectionist's escape hatch. The idea that you can wait until you feel ready, or until the conditions are ideal, or until you are confident you can do it well. The practice says, this is the task, this is the time, execute. Not because you're forcing yourself, but because this is what your preferred self does. This is the power of keeping your focus on the one task at hand. Perfectionism thrives in complexity. Execution thrives in simplicity. Let's look at how these two mindsets approach the same challenges. Perfectionism says, I'll act when I'm good enough. The non-negotiable mind says, I become good enough by acting. The first waits for permission that never comes. The second understands that competence is built through repetition, not bestowed by waiting. Perfectionism says, I need to feel ready. The non-negotiable mind says, readiness is a consequence of action. The first treats feelings as prerequisites. The second recognizes that confidence follows action, not the other way around. Perfectionism says, I can't do it unless I can do it well. Reality says, you can't do it well unless you do it. The first is a trap that keeps you from starting. The second is simply how skill acquisition works in writing, in fitness, in any craft worth mastering. This is the reality alignment principle again. You cannot skip the cause and still claim the effect. Here's how this breaks down. The practice aligns you with reality. The non-negotiable mind eliminates the negotiation. The preferred self expresses itself through action. And the discipline reinforces consistency with the identity. In the next episode, we're going to explore the deeper identity mechanics behind all of this. Why work is non-negotiable for most people, why personal goals are not, and how identity determines whether negotiation even appears. For now, remember this. Perfectionism is not an ideal standard. It's an escape. And the escape is from reality itself. The writer who never starts the first draft, the athlete who avoids the new technique, the professional who delays the difficult conversation, They all share the same illusion, that waiting will somehow make them ready. It won't. The only way out is through. Excellence is earned by embracing imperfection, consistently, deliberately, without negotiation. That's it for today. Catch you next time.